Allison, let's start this thing up. Let's light it up.
All right. So I guess everybody's here. They're still trickling in. But
Yep.
for those of you that don't know me, I'm Allison Gaddy, co-founder of Expert Partners, along with my life and business partner, Mr. Don Hobbs. And we do programs like this to elevate agents and to transform the industry. And our goal here is to help you guys, turn what most of you think as a career or a sales job into a business that will feed your whole life and your whole experience. So that's really our goal here. And we're really excited to have you joining us.
Yeah, we are, and it's really nice to have you here. Thank you for taking your time. I mean, the one thing that happens in real estate is people have to weigh out, is this going to be better, or should I be out lead generating or prospecting, or worried about what's going on in the market? And you got choices, and you're here, so I'm really glad you're here. The thing that I know about the real estate business right now is there is such great opportunity for those that stay focused on the things that really matter. And when I met Bob Burg some months back, I'm not really going to introduce him quite yet, but when we met some months back, some years back, first of all, I met him physically. I met him through a book called The Go-Giver. And, I have a few books that are in my library that I call business Bibles. And I don't mean that as offensive to anybody. Please don't take it as such. I'm not comparing it to anything that would be called the Bible. But these are my business Bibles, books that really make a difference in how I think about business. And this was one of them. When I read this book, I thought, game changer. So Bob wrote this and a series of books in that series. He also wrote Endless Referrals, and he's co-written a new book with Jeff West, who's here with us as well, and their partner in business, Kim Angeli, is here with us. So I'm really excited about introducing you to them. But what I know is that right now is a time when you've got to figure out, how do we rely on building strong relationships? We've been talking big conversations around this NAR settlement and what's going to happen. How's the buyer side settling out? What are we going to do different with the sellers? How do we make sure? Listen, guys, when people know, like, and trust you, when they love you, all that stuff doesn't matter. All that's just BS. Now, we're going to have to learn some new words, and we're going to have to learn some scripting around it, but that's not the point. The real point is they have to trust you. They have to know you, love you, trust you. And when that's the case, you're going to absolutely experience that while other agents are falling by the wayside and leaving the industry, which probably is a good thing. None of us here, but it's a good thing that we go from 1.5 million realtors, or give or take, to maybe a more reasonable million realtors. But here's the deal. It's going to mean more business for you. And the ones who stay you're going to see your volumes go up. You're going to see that your business will grow. You're going to see that you are ruling your markets when you've got the right stuff. I think was the movie, right? The right stuff. When you get the right stuff, that's what's going to happen. So we wanted to make sure that we're bringing you the right stuff. And so to that point, I want to do two quick introductions. We won't even give them time on, but we've somewhere got here. I can't find all the people in all the little squares, but Randy Warren and also JD Cobb, two of our friends from Town Square Mortgage that are part of the sponsorship group. They're part of what has made this possible. And I just want to say thank you guys for your work on getting this set up, on getting things done, and for making this available to a lot of realtors. So thank you for that. Town Square Mortgage is in a whole bunch of states, so you can check it out, and you can find them either in here or you text me. They do these kinds of things because they want to be valuable to you and be a value to you when you don't need them, so that when you do need them, you know where to go. All right, so with all that set aside, I want to do introductions, and I'm only going to introduce Bob Burg, and here's the reason. Bob and I got a chance to meet several years back. I loved his books, loved who he was, loved what he spoke from, and then a funny story. I'm listening to an Audible of one of my other business Bibles, Ninja Selling. I'm listening to the Audible of that, and who do you think does the foreword for it? Bob Burg. And I'm like, of course he's doing the foreword for it. Of course they've got the same mind. Of course they've got the same thought process. Of course he's like that. So Bob and we were in a lot of rooms when COVID hit, and we were in a room in a platform called Clubhouse. And we got a chance to really start doing a lot of programs together in that forum. And every time he stepped on stage, every time he opened his mouth, I was like, brilliant, nuggets, mic drop. And Bob, you've been a good friend and you've done a lot of things for us already. I'm just thrilled that you would come today and bring your posse in the form of Jeff West and Kim and Angeli. I know they've got major horsepower themselves. Each of them has like monster recognition behind them. And I just wanted to start it off by saying thanks for being here, guys. You, Kim, and Jeff, thanks for being here.
Thanks for being here, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Don.
Thank you for having us.
You know,
So Bob, do you want to start this thing off? Do you want to kind of lead us into the promised land here?
Yeah, and you know, first I really want to thank you and Allison for a couple of reasons. One is you're really leading the field and just doing it in such a right way. And there's two things I'll just say, and I've told Jeff and Kim this, that whenever I'm on a call with y'all, I always end up learning a whole lot. Yeah, I mean, yesterday Gene just blew it out of the water. I mean, he was amazing. But every time you have people, whether it's Larry Kendall, whether you're having a discussion with a bunch of your leaders, you know, whether it's your coach or whether it's Russ or Linda or a whole bunch, I always learn a lot. And what you do is you and Allison create an environment for everybody to thrive. I've also never had a personal conversation with you and Allison, whether here or on social media, where I didn't come away feeling better afterwards.
Thank you.
And I think that's also part of a great leader. So I just wanted to acknowledge that and thank you. And I want to say hi to everybody on this call. Yeah, there were some old friends of mine and there were a bunch of new friends. And what we're going to do is I'm going to speak for about 11 or 12 minutes. I'm going to introduce Jeff, and I'm going to introduce Kim after that. And you don't know them yet, probably. Some of you might, but you probably all of you don't. I'm going to tell you, you're going to be really glad you got a chance to meet them, because the wisdom they have to share, first from building their own huge enterprises, and being able to share it in a way that is just very relatable, you're absolutely going to love. Now, one thing, and you know, Don, you already were really talking about this, you're going to see a commonality, but I know this commonality is in all of us on this call. That commonality is putting our entire focus on the good of our prospects, our customers, and our clients. It all begins there and it ends there. And we all know this. Now, you know, when we look at the premise of the Go-Giver, what is it? That shifting your focus, but that's where it begins. Shifting your focus from getting to giving. Now, when we say giving in this context, we simply mean constantly and consistently providing immense value to others, understanding that doing so is not only a more fulfilling way of conducting business, it's the most financially profitable way as well. No, not for some magical, mystical reasons, just give no, not at all. It's actually very logical. It's very rational. When you're that realtor who can take your focus off of yourself and instead place it on serving others, discovering their needs, their wants, their desires, helping solve their problems, helping move them closer to happiness. When that's your focus, people feel good about you. They feel great about you. They want to get to know you. They like you. They trust you. They want to be in relationship with you. They want to do business with you when the time is right to do that. And they want to be your personal walking ambassadors. How does this manifest itself? Well, in the Go-Giver, remember there were 5, if you read the book, there were 5 laws of value, compensation, influence, authenticity, and receptivity. Let's just look at one. And we're going to look at one part of one of them. That's the law of influence. This says your influence is determined by how abundantly you place other people's interests first. Now, a lot of people would see that as counterintuitive. I know you don't, but a lot of people would. But you think about it, the greatest leaders you know, the top influencers, the top producers, the most sustainably, financially profitable realtors, this is simply how they run their lives and conduct their businesses. They're always looking out for the interests of the other person. Now, let's not misunderstand. That doesn't mean, you know, when we say place other people's interests first, that doesn't mean that you should be anyone's doormat or a martyr or self-sacrificial in any way. Of course not. Absolutely not. It simply means understanding that, as Joe, the protagonist in the the protege and the go-giver, as he learned from several of the mentors, the golden rule of business, of sales, is simply that all things being equal, people will do business with and refer business to those people they know, like, and trust. But here's the thing. The fastest, the most powerful, the most effective way to elicit those feelings toward you from others is by genuinely and authentically moving from that I focus or me focus to that other focus, looking to make your win all about the other person's win. Now, is that just something, theoretical, but in the real world, that's not how it is? No, actually, that's exactly how it is. Because remember, no one's forced to do business with you. So why would they? What would cause them to want to do business with you? And some of you have heard me before, have heard me say that when I used to speak for corporate sales audiences, I'd often begin by saying, nobody's going to buy from you because you have a quota to meet, right? No one's going to buy from you because you need the money, and no one's going to buy from you just because you're a nice human being. They're going to do business with you, whether it's list or buy, whatever it happens to be. They're going to do business with you because they believe that they will be better off by doing so than by not doing so. And that's the only reason any of us could expect anyone to do business with us. But that's great. See, that's wonderful for that realtor who has a heart for service, who has a heart for providing immense value to others. Now, we're going to just take one aspect of this right now over the next few minutes. We're going to look at what I call genuine influence. Now, influence on a very basic level, dictionary definition of influence is simply the ability to move a person or persons to a desired action, usually within the context of a specific goal. You would like to influence a person to give you the listing, whatever. Okay, and then that's fine. Interesting about influence, the essence of influence is pull as opposed to push, right? We never say about someone, wow, that David or that Marlene, she is so influential. She has a lot of push with people. No, she's influential. She has a lot of pull with people, right? How does that pull manifest itself? Well, it manifests itself by being focused on that other person. How does what I'm asking this person to do, how does it align with their goals, with their needs, wants, and desires? How does what I want this person to do, how does it align? How does it make them happier? How does it help them solve a problem? See, that's what they care about. So I think what we need to be internally motivated, but outwardly focused. And that's how we influence. Now, we're going to take this a step further, though. Rather than just utilizing influence, we're going to use what I call genuine influence. I define genuine influence as the ability to attain the results you want when dealing with others in such a way that you make them feel genuinely good about themselves, about the situation, and about you. This is the essence of what could be called people skills. Now, I believe that people skills are the differentiator. I believe that people skills are the differentiator between the successful realtor and the absolutely enormously successful realtor. Why? Am I saying that knowing your stuff isn't important? Of course not. Knowing your stuff, being great at what you do, knowing, understanding real estate, continuing to study, getting the designations, the wisdom, absolutely. Knowing knowing your area, knowing your farm, if that's what you're working, knowing your marketplace, absolutely. Hard work, all those things, the effort you put in, attending, doing the things, absolutely. It's all important. But it's just the entry fee to get to play, okay? Because there's a lot of realtors who are really good at what they do. Oh, there are a lot that aren't, but there are a lot that are, okay? Now, the differentiator is how you relate to others. The differentiator is how you can attract people to you, to know you, to like you, as Don said, to love you, and Gene talked about this yesterday, right? To love you, to trust you. How do you get to that point? So we're just going to go through this, and then you'll see how Jeff is going to take it at a whole different angle, and then Kim, and it's really holistically, those three aspects. So genuine influence is based on 5 principles, and I'm just going to do a kind of a Reader's Digest version of them. Here we go. The first one is simply master your emotions, right? Even though it's all about them, the ability to do that, to focus on them, starts with ourselves. We need to master our own emotions. We need to be in control. See, it's only when we're in control of ourselves, right, that we're even in a position to take a potentially negative situation or person and turn it into a win for everyone involved. We all know this. We all know this. And yet, how often do we, based on what someone else says or does, do we allow ourselves to become frustrated, aggravated, victimized, angry, right? And we say or do that very thing that, rather than getting us closer to the results we want, is totally and absolutely counterproductive to those results. Well, why do we do that if we know better? And the reason is because we're human beings. We're human beings. We're emotional creatures, right? And so, we'd like to think we're logical, and to a certain extent we are, and Jeff will talk about that, but to a certain extent we are, but we're pretty emotion-based. We make major decisions based on emotion, and we back up those emotional decisions with logic. We rationalize. And if you break up the word rationalize, it simply means we tell ourselves rational lies. And we do that to justify the emotional decision we just made, and or to justify our acting in a way that was absolutely not congruent with what we hold as high values. Okay. So first, I'm not in any way saying that you should deny your emotions or stifle your emotion. Absolutely not at all. Emotions are wonderful. They're a beautiful part of life. They bring us joy. They make life worthwhile. No, just that you need to be the master of your emotions, as opposed to your emotions being the master of you. Or as one of my mentors, Dante Scumaci, she so brilliantly and eloquently says, by all means, take your emotions along for the ride. Just make sure you are driving the car. So first is master your emotions. Now, the second part is step into the other person's shoes, or what I call understand the clash of belief systems. What do I mean? Well, step into the other person's shoes. That's an old saying. It sounds trite. Step in the other person's shoes. Sounds easy, but maybe it's not when you think about the fact that most of us have different sized feet. So we literally cannot step into their shoes. We figuratively cannot step into their heads because we're not them. We've all grown up with a different set of beliefs, a way of looking at the world. This was based on upbringing, environment, schooling, news media, But by the time we're little more than toddlers, we have unquestionably accepted a basic foundation of the way the world works. That's our belief system. And everything else that comes into our world is just added on to that. Most of us grow up living our lives subject to what I call an unconscious operating system, believing that we're making decisions based on conscious choice and strength, when really we're making these decisions within a forced matrix, if you will. Think of the movie, but without the machines, okay? And so, but here's the upshot of this, that we assume that the way we see the world is the way everyone else sees the world. How could it be any different? It's all we know. That's why you hear people say things like, oh, everybody likes that. Or, oh, nobody would want that. That's not true. Maybe we feel that way, not necessarily them. I would never treat someone like that. Well, no, you wouldn't. Neither would I, because it's incongruent with our beliefs. But for other people, it isn't. Now, so we're going to talk about how that comes into play. You don't necessarily have to understand their beliefs, but you have to understand there's a clash of belief systems. Now, the way to get to understand their beliefs is by asking questions. Asking questions and really, really listening. It's the only way we can ever for sure know, or come as close to knowing, what they need, want, and desire. There's no other way, because otherwise we're just actually placing our beliefs into their heads, and that just doesn't work out. We're going to come back to this in an example. Number 3 is to set the frame. What is a frame? Well, a frame is the foundation from which everything else takes place. If you set the proper frame, you're actually 90% of the way to the results you want. But if you allow the other person to set it, which they always will, somebody will always set a frame. It's usually unconscious. The key is to turn the unconscious and make it conscious. But if you buy into the other person's frame, you're 90% of the way to the results you don't want. Okay, we're going to come back to that. Number 4 is communicate with tact and empathy. My dad always defined tact as the language of strength. And I always love that, because how often would we like to just really let someone have it and blah, 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 right? And they send a text or an email or on the phone, or somebody gives us the same objection 5 times that we've already, answered, and blah, blah, right? And so, but instead we have that strength. And so we're able to commit. So I would actually say tact is the ability to communicate a message to someone that they ordinarily would not be agreeable to, but to do it in such a way that not only are they not defensive toward you and resistant to your idea, but they are open to you and more accepting of your idea. Now, tact's cousin is empathy. The dictionary definition of empathy, right, is the identification with or vicarious experiencing of another person's feelings. The problem of that is, again, we don't know how they feel. We may have an idea how they feel, but we don't totally know how they feel. The good news is that empathy doesn't really necessarily mean you know how they feel. It's communicating to them through what you say, how you say it, but really just how you show up. It's communicating that you understand they're feeling something, and that something is distressful to them, and that you are there to help them work through it. Okay. And then there's number 5, and that is let go of having to be right. Now, this doesn't mean you don't want to be right. It doesn't mean you're not going to prepare to be right. Absolutely you are. It means you lose your attachment to having to be right, to having the result you want, to having to be 100% right 100% of the time. This does 2 beautiful things. One, it allows you to go into learner's mode, which means that you're going to be open to ideas and thoughts that you may not have considered, which allows you to grow and to actually be right more times. This, as opposed to the person whose life philosophy seems to be, my mind is already made up. Don't confuse me with the facts. And we all know people like that. And those people, first of all, they can never know anything more than they know right now. And most of the time, what they think they know isn't necessarily true. Okay. But here's the other part about letting go of having to be right. When you are in a conversation with this prospect, with this customer, with this client, and you can operate with that in mind, letting go of having to be right, that other person senses that you're not just looking to hold a position, right? That you are searching for the truth wherever that truth may lead. And when that's the case, they're much more likely to let down their defenses and begin doing the same thing. Now, before I end and introduce Jeff, let me give you one example where we're going to kind of use all 5 of these and this is just this quick. The examples can go on and on and on. This is just one in which you're going in to take a listing, and you notice there's a kind of a negative energy. The husband and wife both kind of have a negative energy, and they don't really say anything yet, but once you get to the table and sit down, it kind of comes out. And one of them says, we just want you to know you're the 5th realtor we've had visit, and each of the other ones have told us that they're the best, their company's the best, they're the only ones we should go with, and that, and we just want you to know we're not some easy Mark, that's just going to agree to what you, okay, now they've come in a very defensive frame, right? Well, first of all, what we do is we control our own emotions, because see, if we let that frame, right, if we let that emotion affect us, what do? We become defensive. We start defending ourselves and our position. We maybe kind of kowtow a little bit, which isn't good emotional posture, or maybe we even get a little aggressive, which again is not right. And so we control our own emotions. We're the master of our own emotions. Now, second, we understand the belief system here is that they believe that realtors are pushy and all about themselves and just getting the listing no matter how it affects them. That it's not necessarily correct, but that's how they feel, and that's the important thing. Okay, now we're going to reset the frame. Okay, so what we're going to say is something along the lines of, well, first, thank you so much for sharing that with me. I appreciate it, and I feel bad that you had to go through that. Mr. and Ms. Prospect, well, I've been honored to list and sell a number of homes in this community. Please know that whether or not I'm the right solution for you, we can't possibly know without really exploring deeper and getting to understand what you need, what you want, what your goals really are. So please know this conversation is for all of us to get to understand that and figure it out. And if it turns out we're a good match, great, I'll be honored to list your property. But if not, that's also okay. So what you've done is you've totally reframed this from one of two adversaries to one of two allies who are both concerned with one thing only: what's in their best interest. Now, you utilize tact and empathy in the way you communicated, and you also utilize law number 5, let go of having to be right, by giving them the out or back door, right? You let them know that, hey, whether or not this or that, and we need to first both understand, and if I'm the right solution for you, and so forth. And so what you did is you gave them the out or back door. And what I call Burg's law of the out or back door is simply, the bigger the out or back door you give someone to take, the less they'll feel the need to take it. So you're not giving them the outer back door so that they will take it. You're giving it to them so that they feel so comfortable with you and themselves in the situation that they don't feel the need to. Because remember, it's an element of human nature. We want autonomy. We want to feel that our destiny is in our hands, that the choice is ours, and that's what you gave them. Again, one quick example, and we can come back in the Q&A and look at some other things. But I do want to introduce Jeff West. Jeff is a hero of mine. He was a client of mine 20 years ago. But Jeff built an absolutely huge organization. Gene would love him because Jeff's such a great recruiter. And Jeff, if you heard Gene yesterday, I mean, just dropping nuggets of gold about recruiting. And so Jeff started as a salesperson, worked his way up the ranks, and over a couple of years, 2 or 3 years, I guess it was, he went to state sales coordinator for a Fortune 500 company. And this was a big deal. He was one of the leaders in the entire company. Now, after Jeff retired from the business, he had something that was still not solved, because he's a perpetual student of sales. Jeff and I can have like conversations for hours about sales. Okay. And so one of the things was he would notice, and he'll talk more about this, but why, you could take 2 recruits, and he'll talk more about this, but they could be so similar and yet have such different results, right? He also wanted to see why some people, including him, were really good when it came to setting appointments. And I know he'll never tell you this, but that his closing ratio was like enormous. But why? Why did this happen? We all know what we've been taught in sales. He wanted to know why this was, and he made a study of it called fusion points. And now he's sharing this all over, and it's fascinating. And he's one of my real life action heroes. So Jeff West, greetings.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate it. Thank you so much. And thank you, Don and Allison, for having us here with you today. My job behind the scenes, when Bob and Kim and I are doing webinars or doing things for organizations like yours, we kind of call it the 3 Amigos show. because we have all become great friends, and it's just been such a blessing. My particular role in this is to give you kind of a peek under the hood of your own brain, or more importantly, maybe your prospect's brain or your team member's brain, and see how the wiring works. And there's a reason this is so important. The single most important factor that will determine your future success, and if you're building a team, the success of your organization, is not the economy. It's not the political landscape. It's not even your competition. The single most important factor that will determine your future success is how the prospects in your marketplace, how your clients, how your customers, how your potential recruits for your team or your existing team members make one simple decision. When it comes to their relationship with you and your organization, will they persist or will they quit? And understanding how that process happens can be very valuable information for you in your career. And like Bob said, after a 30-year career in sales and sales leadership, most of that time actually working for myself in the insurance industry. I was a state manager for a Fortune 500 insurance company. And there was something that just puzzled all of the leaders in the organization. And Bob alluded to it earlier. It's how could you take two people who on paper both look like they should be very successful, same background, same leadership skill set, it looks like. Everything about them looks like you should put them both out there and they'd be successful. And yet in practicality, what happens is you put one out there and they make the decision to go after it, to persist, to learn, to do the things they need to do to become successful, while the other one makes the decision to give up and quit. And it doesn't make any sense at all. So as I left the insurance industry and began to write and speak, I dove into that subject. I wanted to know why. And what it basically amounts to is there is a science, an actual neurological process that occurs in our brain with each and every decision we humans make. And there are no exceptions to that. And so if you learn that science and you make the decision to work with it rather than in opposition to it, you can influence how some very key decisions get made. You can influence how a prospect who's never met you will actually make the decision to say yes to that first meeting. You can influence how that same person will then make the decision to become your customer. And if, as you continue the relationship, especially the way Kim will teach you, they become your personal walking ambassador for your brand. You can influence how a potential team member makes the decision to join you. And more importantly, you can influence how they make the decision to persist in their career and go after it and just really bust it. And so my part of what we do is to teach you how to make those choices and how to influence those decisions. And I won't go through all the science to back this up today. There's just not enough time on our episode that we have today, I guess. But if you're into that kind of thing, look for the works of Dr. Antonio Damasio. In particular, his book, The Descartes Error, to be honest with you. But he is a professor of neuroscience at USC and was an adjunct professor at the Salk Institute. But here's the basics of that science. Each and every decision that we make, not some of them, not a few of them, but literally every decision we make, neurologically speaking, happens pretty much the same way. There's a part of our brain that creates emotion. That part of our brain communicates with a part of our brain that processes logic. Those two come together and they produce the decision that is facing the person at that time. Now, so let's talk about how that actually works. In that part of our brain that produces the emotion, when we have a negative emotion, such as distrust, annoyance, a feeling that you're not secure, you're not safe, things of that nature, when that emotion is triggered in our brain, here's what happens. Our brain sends a charge down into our torso, down into our body. It's called a somatic marker, and it makes us feel something different. It creates a physiological response in our body. Now, if it's a negative emotion, that physiological response is uncomfortable. It makes us uneasy. It makes us, we don't like the way that feels. We want to push back. Our natural physiology pushes us back away from the situation. And so when that negative emotion is what's combining with logic at the time of the decision, the natural tendency is to say no, to not move forward in the process, and to push back on whatever's happening in front of the person at the time. And if you're the one standing in front of them at the time, they'll push back on you because of that. I call that a collision point. And the result of a collision point in your business processes creates no, it creates stalls, it creates pushing back, it creates, I want to think about this for 7 years. I mean, that's what it does. But the good news is that the opposite is true as well. When our brain creates a positive emotion, such as joy, love, a sense of trust, a sense of belonging, camaraderie, when the brain produces that emotion, it still sends a somatic marker into your body. But what happens at that point is it produces a physiological feeling that we enjoy. We like the way that feels. It makes us feel comfortable. We want to repeat the process. And our natural tendency is to say yes to the next step. It's just how we're wired mechanically in that situation. And so when a positive emotion connects with logic to create the decision, that decision is what I call a fusion point. And at a fusion point, our natural tendency is to say yes. It is to become loyal. It is to be comfortable taking the next step. If you're in a business relationship, it's what makes a prospect say yes to the meeting. It's what makes a prospect say yes to becoming your client. When they're already your clients, continually creating those fusion points, that's what gets them to turn in from just a client to your personal walking ambassador. And so a fusion point, I define that as a fusion point is that moment in time where logic and positive emotion merge and ignite, and it creates energy and acceleration and commitment. By the way, if you're leading a team, fusion points that you create inside your organization will be the most amazing loyalty generators that you can ever do. And it's why some organizations just soar and become so awesome while others seem to struggle. It's because the person leading that team is doing that. Now, in what we've got time for today, what I do when we're working on different things that the three of us do is I will teach how to be intentional in creating fusion points, both in your prospecting model and how you're generating those first meetings with your clients or with your prospects. I'll teach it how to generate fusion points in the actual sales conversation. And as you're going through the process, so many ways you can actually do that. Bob and I even teach some things about how to become objection proof. And it's material that Bob's had forever that we turned into the last book. But that process actually creates fusion points by how you're working with your prospect on that. And then also in leadership, I teach how to create fusion points to build a team that stays with you and doesn't defect to your competition, that stays after their personal success. And in today's time, I'm going to talk to you just about the prospecting section. I'm kind of give you a glimpse behind what happens there. You know, when you make your initial contacts with any prospect, you're generally going to find them in one of three categories. One category of prospect actually already knows they have a need. They kind of recognize you or your brand. And when you make the contact with them, they see you as a potential solution. So they see that as help could be on the way that they need, and it immediately creates a fusion point with those people. And so they say yes to your appointment. They tend to say yes when you're asking them to move forward because they already recognize their need and they see you as a potential solution. However, you got a couple of other groups that it doesn't seem to work that well. Don't you wish they all worked like that? You've got another group that an unexpected sales call that you were just reaching out or whatever. There's some people in that group that consider that an interruption to their day, and it creates a collision point for them. It creates annoyance. It creates something that push back on, or maybe they have a predisposition like Bob was talking about sales in general and people contacting them like that. So in that group, they push back on you, and it's harder to get anything going, even that first meeting. And then you've got a third group that goes along. And with that third group, they're not considering you at all. I say they're kind of distracted with their own day. It's what we all do. They're focused on what's happening in their world, how they've got to deal with different situations that are going on. And so there's no emotional context to that group. They just don't think about you. And the truth is, it's because you haven't given them a reason to yet. And we're going to fix that. Now, you can actually, with that first group, you're going to get all kinds of yeses. People will move forward, and you can make enough contacts in that first group where they already kind of know they need you, and you can make a great living with that. I did that for decades in sales. I won't say I was smart enough to know why it worked, but I knew if I worked hard enough, I would find those that just happened to need me at that time. But with that other group, the second group where they get kind of an annoyance with you, or the group that doesn't think about you at all, you don't get as good response there, but you can actually elevate their response level in addition to even the first group when you actually incorporate fusion points into how you prospect even prior to ever meeting them or them meeting you. And I'm going to give you 3 quick ways that you can do that in your everyday world and incorporate these fusion points into your prospecting model. The first way to create a fusion point with that prospect is to get an introduction from someone who already knows, likes, and trusts you, a referral. I like the term introduction. Referral is what everybody uses all the time, but I like the term introduction on that as well, because people are often very comfortable introducing you to their friends, even if they're not as normally receptive to the idea of a referral. But you can change that as you do this. But when you get that introduction to them from someone who knows, likes, and trusts you, what happens is the fact that it's basically you're borrowing their credibility, and it actually creates a fusion point with that prospect. They feel more comfortable because their friend knows you, likes you, and trusts you. There's a second way that you can generate fusion points even prior to asking for that first meeting. And I teach people to do this with 3 touches before you ever ask for anything. Depending on the industry, it's going to vary on real estate versus insurance. So there's a little bit of variation there, but what we teach is how to make sure we work it right for your industry. But I always encourage people, before you do the first thing, send out 3 positive touches. The first touch, ideally, if you can, find something on social media or on that if they have a business or their business website, find something you can brag on them about. You saw a positive review on Yelp and it caught your attention, or you saw that they like kittens and you like kittens, whatever it is, find some kind of commonality there, print it off, write a little, and I totally like the idea of the handwritten notes. As a matter of fact, I get tickled. Bob teaches with the note card thing, and I've got my stack right here because I'm sending out some today. But send out a handwritten note saying, hey, I saw this, I was impressed. This was cool, but then add 2 sentences. Number 1, I'd like to meet you soon. Number 2, please expect my call. That's simple. Don't reach out for the appointment yet, but send that first touch. The second touch I like to encourage people to do is anything that person's going to find valuable. In real estate, it may be something about the housing industry that applies straight to them, but make it about them. How about making their world better? Because when you focused on making their world better, you create that fusion point, and they feel that. But that second touch could be anything of value like that. I've even seen people send social media things that they thought were really cool. The third way, I think it's really good for them to have something in their hands. You can use a service like Kim has one that she recommends, where you can even upload pictures off social media or off of their website, put a little note in there and send that to them. But with each touch, always add the 2 sentences. I hope to meet you soon. Please expect my call. Don't let the 3 touches drag out. Even in any sales context, I tell people 5 to 10 working days should be plenty to do all 3. But then after you've done those 3 touches, what will happen is this: if you've provided value to them, that positive emotion gets generated in their brain 3 times. The neurology of the brain combines that with the logic when you reach out for that appointment, and the fusion point happens, and they're much more likely to say yes to you. And then the third way that I teach people in a prospecting model to create the fusion points is in the words you use. Always focus on their value proposition. Value proposition is one of those terms that I think a lot of companies, even though they're very well intentioned, kind of miss the mark on. Because you see, a value proposition has nothing to do with your company. It has nothing to do with your product or service. It doesn't even have anything to do with how great you are as a salesperson. And I know if you guys are hanging out with Don and Allison, you're pretty darn great. All right. So what it does, their value proposition is one thing. It's how their world gets better because they have a relationship with you. And when it does that, when your verbiage on that in every single thing that you do, from asking for that first meeting, don't ask them for a meeting to explain anything about real estate. Ask for that first meeting to focus on their value proposition, their value from your proposition. Anyway, that's enough for me because I've already used up my 10 minutes. So I'm going to hand it back to Bob. We are so excited that we get to be with you guys today. And I'm so excited for you to hear from Kim. Angeli, I can't hardly stand it because the lady is magic at what to do once you've attracted a client and keep them forever.
Thank you, Jeff. I learn from him every time. He was like Jim Rohn. You know, I could listen to Jim Rohn and I could listen to Jim Rohn say the same thing every time, and it still wowed me. And I felt like I got something. It was the same with Zig Ziglar. There's certain people like that. And I feel that way every time I speak with Jeff. Now, I want to introduce Kim. First of all, I adore Kim. She's the type of person, she is a walking fusion point. Okay. She just walks into a room and everybody loves Kim. But what happened was Kim was a client, and she came to a couple of our Beyond the Mastermind events that my business partner Kathy and I used to put on. And she came to the second one just to sharpen her saw. And because she was doing this newer thing, this is a while ago, but it was this newer thing back then. And she wanted to make sure that she's showing us what she's teaching people and the results that people have and exactly what she's doing. And Kathy and I are looking at each other and it's like, oh my goodness, we have got to do something with her. It was so fantastic. What Kim really does is she teaches a framework to keep you, when it comes to your clients, okay, to keep you not top of mind, but top of heart. And she does this in such an elegant, loving, wonderful way. She allows you to work your business according to your values and what you love to do. She keeps you memorable. And as she says, and I just love this from Kim, she says, it's not your client's job to remember you. It's your job to be unforgettable. And she shows us how. Kim Angeli.
Awesome. Thank you, Bob and Jeff. I learn something new every time I spend time with them. And thank you, Don and Allison, for having us on with your top leaders. So Jeff and Bob, you know, you've earned this know, like, and trust with this amazing customer. You now have a new relationship and you got to the closing table. Yay! You finally got paid. Because I'm a licensed retired insurance agent and there are only a few of us out there crazy enough to work for free until we get paid by policies and real estate transactions. So yay, we're part of the club. This is a process I'm going to go through with you, a couple of steps that I used in my own insurance agency that I sold at 44 years old, and I retired out of that business to do this. And I want to give you and equip you with two things to be unforgettable, right? Because you've earned the know, like, and trust. The person already trusted you to help you with the transaction. But how are we staying unforgettable and top of heart beyond that closing table? So my friend Luke Acree, who owns Reminder Media, he's the president. I don't know if any of you know him. You can put one in the chat. He's amazing. He has as much energy as I do, maybe double. He said that they surveyed 2,000 home buyers and asked them, would you use your agent again? And 80% of them said yes. But when they went to survey those same 2,000 people later, only 12% of those people used them for a repeat transaction. So what does that tell you? It tells me there's a gap beyond the closing table, beyond the transaction. There's low-hanging fruit. There are people that already know, like, trust, and love you, but they have forgotten about you. So I am a product of this. My phone has been blowing up today for showings. And if you didn't know, that's quite exciting when you put a house on the market. I have one on the market right now, my old home. And when you get little showings, it's exciting. And about a decade ago, I bought a home from a lady when I first moved to the Charlotte, North Carolina area, and I didn't know anyone. And if I had wanted to list the home that I listed this weekend with my current real estate agent, I could not have called her because I don't know her name. I have never heard from her beyond the closing gift in 2013. And I cannot look up someone's name in my phone called I don't know. I have 4,700 contacts in my phone, and I don't know as one of them. And so how are you staying unforgettable beyond the transaction? Now, and I'm talking about how are you staying unforgettable with the people that you would like to see again at the closing table? There's a little bit of framework here, is that you enjoyed working with them. It was fun and it was profitable. Now, for the ones that were grumpy and you never want to see again, I don't recommend the process. We don't want to call grumpy people that never saw value in what you did as the real estate professional, because they have friends who also don't value what you do. They might go list their house online and they don't value the agent. People that value agents hang out together. Birds of a feather hang out together. So I'm going to share with you a way to stay top of heart with the people who already know, love, and trust you. And that is reach out to them. A lot of you are doing mailers in the mail. You might be doing Reminder Media Magazine. But what I have learned doing that process myself, I send Reminder Media Magazine out myself as a business strategist. I send cards and gifts. I do client events. I am a product of what I teach. But the single most unforgettable thing you can do is call your customer. I have clients that call me and they're like, Kim, my phone's not ringing. I'm like, well, guess what? The best app on my phone is the phone because it dials out. Oh my gosh, it is a magical concept. So I developed gratitude calls in my journey of being in sales for 30 years. So this June, I will celebrate 30 years of being in sales. I went to school for it. I have a degree from East Carolina University. Yes, I graduated. I have a diploma on the floor because I'm moving. It's not hung up yet. And gratitude calls really embody everything that Bob and Jeff have shared with you. We are not asking the customer, hey, do you have any friends who can refer me that are going to list your house? We're really just calling to say, I appreciate you as a human being. And how is life? I had a gratitude call this morning with a leader. I was just checking in. He had a heart transplant last year. And in the process, it wasn't even my intention. He gave me an entire referral into a speaking engagement thing. That wasn't the intention of the call, but it came up in conversation. The first thing he said to me, it is wonderful to hear your voice. So I want to walk you through where we've lost this connection in 2024. The first thing you miss when someone dies is what? The voice. So even in emailing and texting and all of these methodologies we have to connect, the voice and making someone feel seen, heard, and appreciated is super powerful, because 68% of the people that you have done an amazing job for, incredible job, you've helped them with their largest asset, help them move into a home they're going to have memories for the rest of their lives. They literally have this, they feel seen and heard when you call them with no attachment to selling them anything. Not to mention, I've made it part of my weekly habit to call, because it's just become something I've do, like brushing my teeth. And they might not be the person who refers you, but they feel appreciated because it's your job to be unforgettable. It's your job to stay top of heart. And what happens is after the transaction, they go on with their busy life and they forget about you and they can't find you in their phone. So I would tell you to make this part of your weekly process is calling your top relationships. And if you don't have the script for a gratitude call, you're like, well, Kim, I would do it, but I don't know what to say. I have created gratitude scripts, and Bob will tell you, if this is a great segue for Bob to tell you, is scripting is use your authentic self. It's just a framework for you to make the call. And sometimes you're going to get voicemail. Leave the voicemail. It doesn't matter. It matters that you called, because 68% of them will not do business with you because they feel like you don't care about them. And we want them to know that you care about them beyond the transaction. So make yourself unforgettable and add gratitude calls into your process 52 weeks a year, or when you can even do it on vacation. And if you want the gratitude calls, you can email me at kim@kimangeli.com. That's Kim and then Angel with an I.com. I'm Italian by marriage. That name is mine now. And so you can email me and I will personally email them to you.
Kim, you are so awesome. Thank you very, very much. But here's one thing I forgot to say about Kim Angeli, and she doesn't say it. She's just too humble. I hang out with all these humble people. I can't stand it. You know, when she was before she had her insurance agency and built it up into a powerhouse, she was in the technology sector, technology sales. She actually did $65 million a year in production. This woman, again, she knows how to stay top of heart, and she's just wonderful. So thank you, Don. Thank you so much for having us, and like to take any questions that people have. Jeff, Kim, myself.
Absolutely. Well, we want to do that. I just want to say a couple of things that struck me. I'm sure there's things I was thinking about how cool it is that you've got that group, and I see AJ is with the garage doors. I think there's a few other watch parties going on. How cool it is that you guys get to be in the same room and talk about, like, what did I take away? What did I learn? What am I going to do with that? And then sharing ideas. And we're not going to get to do that necessarily in this forum, but it was so much. And I will tell you the line that I think I gave you credit, Bob. I'm so sorry, Kim, I cheated you, because it's not your job to be, or it's your job to be unforgettable. It's not their job to remember you. It's your job to keep yourself at the top of heart, be unforgettable. I think that's going to live with me forever, because that to me is in essence what we need to be doing at all points. So there's so many things that popped out of today, and I just want to open it up. I did see that Nav had a question. I saw there were a bunch of exclamation points around different things that gratitude calls. Kim, you got them on that. They love that, which I think is fabulous. Top of heart, I saw Pat and Mark Adams talking, Pat Burns and Mark Adams talking about that. But Nav had a question, and it was somewhere in here. So Nav, you can open your microphone. Okay.
Nav, if you want to open it and ask, or I can read it.
Yeah, we're excited that you guys are here, Jeff and Kim and Bob. And I do want to talk about one thing real quickly. And before we get to Nav, let me do this real fast. First of all, Jeff and Bob, I've been reading this and I'm not quite finished. I was hoping to finish it this morning and I didn't get to. There was some things that we sent out a reminder for this call that said it was happening in an hour or 2 hours early. So we made a boo-boo and I had to fix some things. So I didn't finish it, but this book is fantastic. This is their new book. You've got a program coming up. You've got a program coming up, and I don't remember, I think it's in Florida.
Yeah.
And live and in person, like we can come and hang with you guys, right?
Yeah, it's coming up real soon. So
okay, so why don't we give you an opportunity, because I'd really love to have people hear about that, know more about that. And then I don't know, we didn't talk about it, and I wish I had, but maybe there's anything that you can do for our folks, that the expert partners people, that maybe get a special something.
Yeah. So yeah, so it's coming up in early June. So It's going to be in West Palm Beach. In fact, I think, Don, I don't know if you or one of your team members has the link for it that they could put in the chat. It's called SalesWise Live. It's called SalesWise Live. It's taking place at the very, very exclusive Ben Hotel in downtown West Palm Beach. So, and when you go to the site on the link, you'll see the view from the Ben. And actually, it's going to be held, I think, Kim, 3 floors up from that actual photo. I mean, it's amazing. So it's right on the intercoastal with all the yachts, and it's right across from Palm Beach Island, and the hotel itself is what they call an autograph hotel. So it's very, very special. So on Sunday evening, June 2nd, we're going to have a group get together with a delicious buffet dinner. And we're going to have an actual live Dixieland band. Now, most of you won't know why we're having a Dixieland band, but Don probably, yeah, exactly, can tell you why it was the theme behind Streetwise to Saleswise that Jeff and I did, and Jeff wrote the story, and he's such a wonderful writer too. So yeah, that's going to be wonderful. Now, here's the big thing: June 3rd and 4th, Monday and Tuesday, is going to be the actual event. It's 2 full days where it's the entire idea is to take all the information that Jeff and Kim and I have and spill it. Okay. So we're going to go through everything from how to, meet the right people, how to meet them easier, how to close more sales, up your percentage, how to stay top of heart. And what Kim did is a smidge of what she does and what she suggests. Jeff's going to go through the whole thing about fusion points and really up your percentage. And if you lead a team, he's going to show you how to teach your team how to do the same thing. So you're going to be able to leverage that wisdom, but it's not going to be just us up there teaching. Okay. This is going to be totally interactive. Oh, we'll be speaking, but it's interactive. It's going to be a bunch of breakouts, group discussion, a bunch of masterminding. And I can only tell you that what's going to happen at this event is it's going to take your business wherever it is. And I know you're already successful, and it's going to take it to that next level of success. So here's basically what we have. The rooms were closed. We had a certain amount of rooms at the hotel that we got. That closed out yesterday, but I'm going to come back to that in a second. The actual, because again, we're pretty close to the event happening, the cutoff to register is end of day tomorrow. You're totally welcome to register anytime before the end of the day tomorrow. We had to give the hotel the room count Monday. So what we did, since we knew we were doing this today, and because I love Don and Allison, and they asked me what we could do to make this happen, we actually bought 10 extra rooms. Okay. So the first 10 who register, we're paying for your room. Okay. So you're going to have a room at the Ben for 2 days on us. You're going to have some absolutely, oh yeah, you're going to have some absolutely wonderful meals. You're going to enjoy yourself tremendously and come away even more equipped. So I hope you can join us.
Well, you guys, I think that'd be a very special event, and West Palm doesn't suck, and the Ben Hotel sounds amazing, and you 3 are fantastic and amazing. So I'm just going to say it sounds like a magic combination. What I love about what you just said is that it's not just lecture. It's like, we're going to work through it. It's hard sometimes to take ideas, I'm looking at great books, take ideas and say, okay, what am I going to do with that to take action on it and put it into my daily activity so that it's my life instead of it's something that was a really good idea. I really like what Kim said. I really like what you said, Jeff. I mean, that was brilliant. And then we get the notes, and then what do we do with it? So I love that we're just going to go into that deep doing instead of just knowing. And I think that's going to be really powerful. I do want to ask a question. Nav was coming in, I think. I'm hoping he's still here. And Nav, you're certainly welcome to open your mic and get our attention, because we can't see you on the board. You're on page 4 or something like that. I don't know where you are. By the way, guys, open your cameras. We don't care what you look like. I mean, if you didn't make up today, so what? If you didn't, as long as you're dressed, okay? If you have no clothes on, that's probably a good idea to keep secret there. But we'd love to see you. It's hard to communicate with people when they're in the kitchen and you're in the living room. And that's what happens when you guys are off camera like that, right? If you want to do a listing presentation, they go, you sit here, we're going to be over there, just yell at us, right? It's like, that's what it feels like. So Nav, let's have you open up. And then I have a question that somebody else was asking Jeff about Fusion Point.
I got the questions right here, Don. I've got 2 questions on Fusion Point from Nav. I'll just go ahead and throw them out there. Nav, and feel free to interrupt if you're out there. Jeff, can you give an example of a fusion point? That was from Nav. And then Pat Burns said, could Jeff repeat the fusion points again, just the points without the explanation? So those 2 go together. I figured I'd put those out for you.
Sure. One of the very best ways you can create a fusion point, and such a great question, is doing the little extra things like before in the prospecting process. When you send those 3 touches, some sort of a thing where you're bragging on them about something. Maybe you saw a positive thing about them online, or you saw something on social media that just clicked and it impressed you about that potential prospect. Print that off, write a note on it, tell them that you were impressed, and then add the 2 sentences. I'd like to meet you soon. Please expect my call. That's a great way to do it, because when people get that in their hands, the fact that you took the time to do that little thing extra differentiates you from every other person out there, because people don't take the time to connect. Everybody's been looking for shortcuts and they don't take the time to connect. And I think the second part of the question was just the definition of the fusion point. And that's that moment in time when logic and positive emotion merge and ignite. And when they do that, it creates acceleration and commitment, and it creates a yes more often than it doesn't. And so it's an exciting thing with that. And by the way, those of you who are leading a team, as a state manager for the insurance company that I was with, I was self-employed. I was like you guys. I didn't work for the company, and I had a huge team. And what I would do every year is I would take my direct reports, and I would take them and their spouses on a trip based on what kind of year we had. I did it based on my bonus. I got a 20%. Put 20% of my bonus toward doing something great for them. I took them to places like, we spent a week at the Bitter End Yacht Club in Virgin Gorda when we had a fantastic year. If we didn't have quite as big of a year, I went to Key West. We took them to Key West, things like that. But when you take your team on a trip, whether you're paying for it or everybody's paying their own way, is really irrelevant. And while you're there, you do things that bond you with them. And it combines with the logic of what you're trying to do. It's an incredible team building thing. It's an incredible fusion point. And this kind of event, if you guys can coordinate it and make it work, it will create one of the big ones for you. It's just the way it works. And if I didn't get that second question, you can remind me what it was.
I think that was good. Repeating the fusion points again, just the point without the explanation, and then an example. So I think that those were both covered. Thank you.
And then somebody also said, what was the third positive touch recommended to create the fusion point? And I looked at my notes and I'm missing number 3 also. So
what I normally recommend is doing something like one of those services where you can upload a card. You can find a picture, either their social media feed, or if it's a business person, something about their company. You can upload a picture that you think they would like and type in your message, and the service will send that out to them. And so I have had stories where people have followed what I've coached them on, and they literally, and I kind of wrote this into the storyline of the book, walk into the prospect to talk, and the prospect's holding the card in their hand. It's an awesome way. And again, what you're looking for things is doing those little things that separate you from everyone else and create that positive emotion combining with logic.
That's awesome.
That's
what
wonderful.
Other questions?
I have another one here. Shari McGuire wrote a really good one. Would love to get your thoughts on taking Facebook friends relationships to the next level who I've been interacting with for a very long time through daily fun questions. I don't know these people in person and would love to connect more to become top of heart when they need a realtor or when they know someone who does.
Kim, you want to take that one, or Bob?
Kim, okay, let me go first, and then Kim follow up with that. The neat thing about Facebook is that you can see on their page, and as you've gotten to observe some of the things they've done, you know a lot of their likes, right? You know some things maybe about their family, their occupation, their recreation, right? Maybe charities or different whatever really revs them up. So that's wonderful. Because, and again, Gene was talking about this yesterday, right? It's not about us. It's about them, right? And so focus on that person and ask them questions about that, about those activities. Again, here's where the fusion points come in that Jeff was talking about, right? You see something about what they've done. Okay, send them a personalized note card, handwritten, or one of Kim's that acknowledges that. Oh, I saw that your son John was won an award for his soccer, blah 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 blah. Or I saw that Nancy, and send it in the mail to them. I can't tell you how many people who I've met online and then sent a personalized note acknowledging for something, posted about the fact that they actually received a handwritten note. Or you can have a phone call with them, or whatever you'd like to do, but focus on them. Take Gene's advice, make it about them. Don't match them, don't one up them, make it all about them. And I'll tell you, that's how you create those fusion points and you make yourself unforgettable.
I'm going to interject one moment because Bob is very humble. So Bob has an entire 10 feel-good questions about how to make it about them. I will put the link in the chat. But
Thank you, Kim.
even something simple, like how did you get your start if you know their business, make it about them. And these questions, if you're out networking, I give these to clients, I share them, I use them myself. If you want to be memorable and unforgettable in a noisy world, because we live in a 3-second squirrel mode world, memorize 2 or 3 of these, and I will put the link in the chat.
Yeah, and you'll only have time to ask a couple of those feel-good questions in any one conversation. And then the third one, Don, can I share the one key question?
Yeah, absolutely, Bob. Please.
Okay, so if you're teaching your people when in the prospecting process, when they first meet someone, and just as Kim said, ask those first couple of feel-good questions. Absolutely, they're questions that are totally focused on them. They've never been asked those questions before, as simple as they are. And then what I call the one key question that will distinguish you from everyone else they've ever met, from every realtor they've ever met, from every person they've ever met, is to say to this person, let's say they sell whatever it is they sell, doesn't matter. You say, how can I know if somebody I'm speaking with is a good potential client for you? Okay.
Love that.
Pat, I love what you do. Tell me, how can I know if someone I'm speaking with is a good potential client for you? Here's a good way, speaking of frames that we were talking about, because everything begins with the frame, right? Here's a good way to frame this. Steve, I always love connecting good people with other good people. Tell me, how can I know if someone I'm speaking with is a good prospective client for you? At this point, this person knows that you are a person of value that they want to get to know. By the way, if they're not in sales per se, we're all in sales, but you know what I mean. If they're the CEO, or they're an engineer, or they're an accounts payable or receive, so a prospect isn't necessarily same questions, gear it to them, right? So Dave, tell me, how can I know if someone I'm speaking with is someone you'd like to meet or would be a good contact for you? And Don, would you mind, can I take 2 minutes to give a suggestion, if I may, for how you can be the absolute standout star at the next public networking event?
No, we're not interested in that, Bob.
Okay.
No, thank you.
Right. No, so
yes,
here's
of course,
the thing.
please, would you? And then we got a question from Dustin, and we'll finish up today.
Oh, awesome. Okay. So if you've ever been to one of these networking events, I'm not talking about BNI or another referral organization where you make these great relationships with people, not talking about that. But if you have ever been or ever go, or any of the people you teach, okay, have been at a public networking event, maybe sponsored by a company, or even at the, wherever it happens to be. And you've got a bunch of people in the room, and there's one person leading it, and they say, okay, we're gonna take some time to go around the room and give everybody a chance to just share for 1 minute what you do. Okay. So at this point, everybody's going to start giving their 1-minute elevator speech, right? Where they talk about what they do and so forth. Now, here's the thing to understand about this. Nobody's listening. Because first, they don't care. Secondly, they're too nervous about their own elevator speech and how it's going to come about, how to come off. Everyone but you, because here's what you're going to do, okay? When it gets to your turn, you say, you're going to say your name and just, who your company you're with, and then you're going to say, while I enjoy so much what I do, helping people buy and sell homes, really, most of my clients need exactly what so many of you sell. They need your products and services. So what I'm going to ask you to do is just before the end of this event, please come over to me and give me your business card and just let me know how I can know who'd be a great client for you. Boom, you will be the star of this show, okay? Now, after this happens, you have a choice as to who you're going to follow up with now, who you're not going to for right now, what have you. That's up to you. But you have just totally reframed the entire event from one about telling about ourselves to making it all about them.
Okay, can you imagine hanging out for 3 days with these three? Like, oh my God. All right.
The food's gonna be great, by the way. The food is gonna be wonderful. So if you enjoy really great buffets with really fun people, that's another reason.
All right, well, that's awesome. Dustin is one of our big coaches and expert partners. Dustin, what do you got?
Bob, good to see you again, buddy.
You too? You too?
I'm a big fan, obviously, read all of them. So you and Jeff actually signed this one together, which is actually pretty cool. And I know it's pretty new. But my question is, you walked into it a little bit about this one. And if you guys haven't read this book, I mean, look at how many pages I've earmarked and highlighted all throughout. I would open this up probably at least once a year and reread it, because it really, really, really changed my career in real estate, because we've got about 60 to 70% of our deals, which are pretty much based on repeat and referral. My question, Bob, is it's a shameless plug for you, and you weren't expecting that. But secondarily, this was last written, 2006 was the last edition. I'm wondering if you're going to do a new updated one.
So I had been asked to by the publisher, and it was just one of those things where, on that list of stuff that you'd like to do, it just has not gotten up anywhere near the top. Now, we put together an entire video series called Endless Referrals, the Go Giver Way, where we actually brought that all up into the modern day, because as you know, 2006, the internet or the social media still hadn't really become a thing. So there's nothing about that. The principles still hold, but it's totally behind the times, as far as that goes. So at this point, I'm not planning to do. However, at the event, we will be going through the entire Endless Referral system and updated on how to do this through social media and various ways. So, by the way, thank you for the plug. That's awfully
kind. The principles are priceless, man. They are timeless too. But yeah, I agree with you. Something maybe for AI.
Hey Dio, I did ask him about doing a book, and he kind of gave me the same. I said, I got an idea for a book we could do together, and he's kind of put it in that same place. Like, there's a gazillion things I got to do, and there's a list, and that's not at the top right this second. So, hey Bob and Jeff and Kim, I don't know if I got the right order, but Kim and Jeff and Bob, thank you for being here with us today. How many took away a bunch of notes? I'm on page 6 in my journal. I'm on page 6 in my journal from just today. I can't imagine what it's going to be like to be in, I want to say Key West, well, not Key West, of course, West Palm. So you're going to be hanging out with Tony Robbins right down the street from Tony and his crew, right?
That's right.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
So a couple things, guys. First of all, Allison and I put these kinds of functions on for you as an industry because we want to bring this kind of cool stuff. How many would love to have more of these things that we do on a frequent basis? One of them is coming up in the month of June. It's going to be with an amazing guy. We'll get information out to you through the same channels that you signed up. If you did not sign up for this, you were in a room somewhere, we don't have your email. We can't touch you. We don't know how to get you. So please let us know how we can get to you. We've got a program coming up with a man, Bob, I think you met him when we met him, but his name is Sean Swarner. Sean will be the only guy in the world ever, one lung, climbed Mount Everest, has climbed all the tallest peaks in the world on all the continents. And this fall, he's going to run 7 marathons on 7 continents in 7 days. And he's a cancer survivor, twice was supposed to be gone and is with us still. And we're honored to have him as a friend. And he's going to be joining us on June 26th. Hold the date, save the date, same time we started today. I saw some of you come in late. I'm assuming you got the wrong time zone. So it starts at 11 o'clock Central, 12 o'clock noon, and we're going to be doing that on the 26th. So the information will come out to you. But right now, I just want you to hold it. Bob, I can't wait to have you back. And please bring Kim and Jeff with you every time. And you guys have a great event. We look forward to having everybody that can make it, make it. Let's go, guys. Let's make our lives different. Babe, anything you want to conclude with? Allison, anything you want to say before we go?
No, just appreciate you guys so much. Bob, Jeff, Kim, thank you for all you poured into our group, our organization. This was so valuable. And we just thank you for being here. And thanks everybody else for joining us.
Thanks for joining us. And if you're in a room over there and you got a chance, sit together and figure out, like, what are you going to do with this stuff? What are you going to do? Hey, Jada and Steve, good to see you guys. All right, everybody, listen, thank you so much for being here. We appreciate you. We love y'all. We'll see you again in June 6th and 7th and 8th. We're going to be talking to you guys in West Palm Beach, and away we go. Let's go.
Bye, guys.